Afternoon, and thank you all for joining us on this edition of Business Today. My name is Joy Doreen Bira. It is the 3rd of May 2016 and it happens to be World Press Freedom Day. So wherever it is that you are, I guess you are seeing the value that the press is bringing to you wherever it is that you are, and at least appreciating to an extent the services that we in the media are offering to you. And on the show today, we're also going to be looking at the other side of what some of the benefits are. You know, I guess we'll be speaking to economist Karithi Murimi, who is going to give us a little bit of his insights on how he thinks the media has impacted the economy today. And also we will take a look at the economic survey of 2015 that was released by the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics. So today on the show, we asked the question, what ministries do you think need more budgetary allocation in the coming fiscal year? What industries do you think need more budgetary allocation in the coming financial year, that is 2016-2017? Remember, the National Treasury as well did give the estimates that was beating the deadline for the 30th of April, but now we're going to be taking a look at the deeper insights on that. And we'll begin by taking a look at some of your tweets as well to see what exactly you are saying. There's someone here who is saying the Ministry of Agriculture needs more budgetary allocation, and another here is saying the Ministry of Infrastructure and Transport needs more budgetary allocation. So those are some of the views that are coming through. And remember, you can also take part. And the question we are asking is, what industries do you think need more budgetary allocation? It was meant to be ministries. Do you think need more budgetary allocation in the coming fiscal year? You can take part in that conversation and let us know what your thoughts are. But let's now take a look at some of the stories making headlines in business this afternoon. Kenya's economy is estimated to have expanded by 5.6% in 2015 compared to 5.3% in 2014 and 5.7% in 2013. Now, the growth estimates are attributed to improved agriculture returns and infrastructure development ongoing in the country. The previous year, Kenya's growth was mainly driven by an increase in private final consumption and a rapid growth in capital investment. From the supply side, the major drivers of the economy were agriculture, forestry and fishing, as well as construction, wholesale and retail trade, education and finance and insurance. The drop in prices of fuel, electricity and some food commodities has also helped ease inflation, and Central Bank is optimistic that the rates will drop further this year. And bank lending rates in Kenya decreased to about 17.86% in February from 17.96% in January of 2016. In Kenya, the bank lending rate is the upper rate of interest charged on unsecured loans by commercial banks to private individuals and companies. And of course, Kenya Bank's lending rates actual values, historical data, forecast, chart, statistics and economic calendar what exactly form that. And would now like to take a look at what the central bank governor had to say about the lending rates and what commercial banks are offering.
The rates being where they are, everything else constant. Economists love that term, everything else constant. Commercial lending rates need to come down. I think I'm very emphatic about that. And I have made this point that we need to put pressure on the banks so that they can actually do the right thing.
And joining us now to further discuss this is Karithi Murimi, who is an economist. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you.
Well, I'll start by asking, first of all, today is World Press Freedom Day. Do you think we've done a great job in ensuring that people are getting exactly what they deserve in terms of economic content?
The answer is yes. I think you have come a long way, especially the business reporters.
Yeah.
There's quite a bit of what I would call issue-based discussions. and your research is also fairly sound.
Yes.
So to that extent, at least you have shaped some of the discussions.
All
Well
right.
done.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
The Kenya National Bureau of Statistics today is releasing the Economic Survey of 2015, and according to what they say, the Kenyan economy expanded by 5.6% in the year 2015. That is compared to 5.3 in 2014 and 5.7 in 2013. What do you make out of these percentages?
The actual figures are not a surprise because if you remember in December, the World Bank had already projected that the economy will grow by 5.6.
Yeah.
So basically they are just reconfirming what was out there. The key thing is what made us not go to originally what we had planned, which was 6.7. At the time, the CS Treasury presented the budget last year.
Yeah.
And basically there were three items which basically are being discussed as the one which has made the economy not grow. The first is the credit squeeze, because of course government has increased its lending, so you have excess government debt, which then squeezes what you call available credit to private investors. The second one was of course the El Nino phenomenon in terms of removing part of the focus on infrastructure and also indirectly slowing some of the projected roads and those type of items. And the third one, which is a bit unfortunate, is the whole area of the economy in terms of purchasing power. The ability of people to buy and consume goods seem to have slowed down. What that means in economic indicators is that the poverty number has gone up.
Right.
So those are the silent areas that I think people need to start asking, so what going forward?
All right.
Yeah.
So the president earlier this year, during his State of the Nation address, said that the economy would be growing by about 6.1% this year. But from the estimates that we are looking at, 5.6% in 2015, is this realistic that we could see this jump to 6.1% this year?
It will not go beyond that. Basically what happens, and it's something Kenyans need to understand, immediately the minister raised what you call the proposed budget to parliament on 30th April, which was basically a 2.26 trillion budget. The second item that is released to the public is the economic survey.
Right.
Now, the people of Kenya have now a whole month, which is called May, to interrogate if this is what was happening, if this is the recorded, and this is what is being proposed. Are we going in the same? Do we need to change? Are the allocation by the minister correct? So that's the basis where the economic survey by the Minister of Planning comes out. But once it is released, the data in the survey is basically government data.
Okay.
So the 5.6 is government information as of now.
All right.
Yes.
So let's get back to 2015, and you're saying the growth, is being attributed to improved agriculture returns and also infrastructure development. Would you say that this is entirely the reason why we are seeing this growth at 5.6%? Which are the other areas that we could have seen growing in the year 2015?
The bigger drivers of the 5.6 is basically partly the media. Kenyans may not see that, but it's a big driver in terms of consumed data through social media, through content, new films and all that. What we call new service industry. The second major driver is construction. And construction, of course, sits in both the infrastructure by government and also the ordinary investors in building houses and all that. So that whole area of construction in total is a big driver in the 5.6. The third one is, of course, what I would call an element of the governors reacting to the last year's pressure on corruption and not spending on development. This year, they increased the development portion. So a bit of the growth is also linked to what we call increased development at county level.
All right. Yeah. Well, we're just about to take a look at a story about the budget estimates for this year, where, the National Treasury is actually placing it at about 2.3 trillion shillings. That is in estimates. Yeah. Do you think this is on the higher side, or you think we're just, within our limits?
The big gap in that number is the tax. Because the projected tax numbers are a bit on the higher side. So how much the government will be able to borrow to fund the gap is indirectly the bigger issue in those numbers. And that's where Parliament and the ordinary Kenyans will need to participate in the debate. What is this level of borrowing that can be sustained by an economy like Kenya?
All right.
Yes.
Well, consumer prices as well in Kenya rose this year and the past few years actually, but that was by about 5.27 year on year in April of 2016. That is from a 6.45% increase in inflation in March. Now, it has reached the lowest figure since June of 2013, and the month-on-month consumer prices as well aged up by 0.69% following a 0.76% rise in the previous month, and food inflation went up to 1.5%. In May of 2008, we did see a number of, we actually did record the lowest inflation rates, and it kept going up. And I think in 2012 we were doing quite very badly. 2013 we were doing badly too. But the CBK governor recently spoke about the outlook of Kenya and what he thinks about the macro environment in the country.
All of us will need to take our responsibilities seriously. And I'm talking, for instance, the board. You know, being on a board, you have certain responsibilities. Again, we are talking about banks, but you have very clear responsibilities. You are part of you're overseeing resources that have been provided to you in trust. So there is a fiduciary responsibility that comes with that. And you have to discharge it correctly. So when you go to a board meeting, you have to follow those, let's say, standards or requirements.
And that's the CBK governor. What do you think about his remarks?
I think he's re-emphasizing a major point, which is to do with the governance. But what we have suggested to the governor is we need to look at how you pick directors of the boards in banks. What informs you which names you should ask to join your board. Currently, there is a lot of what we call the known type of a factor. We were with you, you are my relative. So you're not looking for quality, you're looking for relations. What that means in short is that when you come to the directors misusing their power, it's very easy, because the chair is basically the one driving the process. So the governor needs to think through how do you bring a process that gives the ordinary person a voice in the board. Yes.
All right. But, earlier he also talked about the fact that he still believes that the economy is going to grow this year. And he gave an example, though I guess that is not what he was talking about right there. He gave an example of how he thinks inflation could drop even further from where we are right now. And he says that, food prices are going to continue to lower, that is aided by the low fuel prices. But going forward, do you think that there are some indicators that Kenya needs to look into more cautiously and also critically, so that we can maintain what we are seeing at the moment?
You see, the growth of an economy is basically people will feel it if it is growing. They are what we call structured growth, which is like we have more roads, we have more railways, we have more airports. That's a structured growth of the economy. For the people to have an economic growth, those people themselves need to feel that growth. Now, coming to the detail, when you reduce cost of living, people will feel it because they are basically seeing a saving out of what they spend on a day-to-day basis.
Right.
If interest rates on loans goes down, then people will feel it because they'll start participating in a bigger number. But when you come to your actual question, the bigger drivers that we are missing in the economy is unemployment. That's a bigger driver. We are yet to rethink what are these fundamentals this economy requires to overgrow employment. And one of them, which government is missing without knowing, is basically in the whole area of art and culture and media. How much regulatory framework do you require vis-a-vis how you want people to grow that particular industry? So we have an industry which gives us opportunity to overgrow and overexpand it, but we are also, without knowing, overkilling it with excess regulation.
Right.
So that's an area that government needs to think about. Currently, they have praised what we call the Kenya Film Corporation and the Ministry of Sports, which to my mind is a misplacement. Because Kenya Film is a place where if you give it enough funding, if you give it enough attention the way we give tourism, you can generate excess jobs for the youth out of that.
And youth unemployment right now is at
Then
its
of course you
highest.
have the whole area of IT, content development. In other words, what I'm trying to bring to the table, the system of government needs to wake up from the traditional agriculture-driven thinking, because those are natural,
Yes.
and revert the people thinking to what I would call knowledge-led type of industries, which indirectly is the service side. And Kenya sits on a unique platform because you can offer that platform of service industry to the region. You can generate news in Kenya, which you can sell to the region. But what that means is that the people of Kenya need to have moved from the day-to-day noise making to generate some kind of platform East Africa-based news, which the region can buy.
All right.
And that way now you create more jobs.
Okay, so your final remarks regarding the economic outlook for 2016, do you think that there are some areas that Kenya could post, optimistic growth, maybe by the end of 2016?
Within the corridor, because there are two things which I think people are discussing.
Yeah.
There is the government year which finishes end of June,
Yes.
which is this June. Within that remaining period is only this month and next month. So there's basically not major thing that can happen in the next 2 months.
Right.
But within the spirit of the whole corridor, what we would call up to December, the government can reorganize the whole corridor of corruption. If they tackle head-on what I would call allocated budget for the controller of budget, allocated budget to the Auditor General, and invoke the internal structures of making people work. Because if you use, for example, like the Huruma saga, you have a Schedule 4 in the Constitution which allocates the setting of standards, the supervision of what you call a good building to the national government.
Yes.
But somehow they are sitting with the funds, but they are using that language to ask the county to do what they don't have the funds for. So unlocking the bureaucracy side of the system of government, if we release the bureaucracy to focus more on doing things right and not controlling what people are doing, stopping the fight between the governors and the national government, and pushing the CSAs to move from making the president hear what is good to now facing the brutal, hard facts of the truth. So if I come to the youth, what is making the youth go to what we call the drugs?
Right.
What are the things I need to fix? What we are doing basically is asking, for an economy to grow, I need to increase the number of people participating in that economy. So any activity that throws people to be productive, whether it's drugs, whether it's idleness, are the areas government needs to sit back and confront in a radical basis. Then finally, if it's agriculture, is pushing the game from singing, we are doing Garana, pushing the game from we are doing Vatraisa in Eldred, to where are the crops to be sold? Where are the export markets for the things that people are currently doing? So if I'm having some bananas, if you're on Mombasa Road and you're looking at the number of ladies walking with bananas chasing the vehicles,
Right.
if that lady would have been given a market to take the banana to the airport. So instead of spending time on the road, she is driving direct to the airport for those bananas to be exported in whichever other economy. Some of those economies is Congo. Congo is waiting for Kenyan produce, and they have a virgin market. But where is the interconnectivity to Congo for the exporters?
Right.
So getting smarter. Then finally is asking the bigger hard question. The
Which
standard
is?
gauge rail is reaching Nairobi in June. That's what the president told us.
Yes.
Where are the export items to be picked by the train to go back to Mombasa? Because you have a transport cost to come one way, if we don't have a return route, then the cost of bringing goods will still be high.
Right.
So sitting with the governors, because the governors have been allocated the area of agriculture by the Constitution, to challenge where are the production items which can be exported out with this railway.
Right. Okay, well, there's so much that we can talk about, but I guess where the markets are is the bigger question. Thank you
Yes.
so much, Karitha Murimi, for speaking to us. Karitha Murimi is an economist giving us his views on the economic survey of 2015 released by the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics. We'll now take a short break and we'll be back with more. We're also going to be speaking to Engineer Gerard Wangai, who is from the National Transport and Safety Authority on the inspection of vehicles, that is for all the private owned and commercially in use vehicles. So do stay with us.
Hello. Yes. Yes, we are going to do the story of NTSA. What happened to the story of... Yes, I can do it from here. What happened to the... Can I have your card, please? Thank you. Oh, I thought I said your name wrong.
Okay.
Okay, your names and title.
My name.
Just checking the sound.
Okay.
Yeah.
My name
And
is.
then your tie is actually, maybe you can count 1 to 5. The mic is not working. Let's do a story.
To swap.
2 stories in between.
Working or not? Joy.
Okay.
What happened to the story on budget estimates? Okay, can we do that one? Then do, then do ERC, then do NTSA as his mic is being sorted. Okay.
One, two. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Order in which we said we were going to do them. We're doing the stories in the order in which we said we're going to do them. Budget estimates, ERC, then NTSA. Yeah. Okay. Welcome back and thank you all for keeping it KTN News. Let's move on and take a look at other business stories. The National Treasury submitted a 2.3 trillion shillings national budget estimate for the financial year 2016-2017. The Treasury is targeting a revenue collection of 1.49 billion shillings, up from 1.29 billion shillings in the last financial year, and overall expenditure and net lending is projected at 2.26 billion shillings, up from the estimated 1.84 billion shillings in the current financial year. Domestic financing of development plans is estimated at 398.4 billion shillings, up from 305 billion shillings, while the country has received commitments worth about 410.6 billion shillings in external financing. In the executive summary, Treasury Cabinet Secretary Henry Rotich said external borrowing will largely be biased towards concessional loans, and the budget, which has been prepared during a slow global recovery, will focus on economic growth and sustainable development. Plans are underway to set up a national load dispatch center that will schedule electricity feeds to industries and homes, and as well as offer cheaper options such as hydro and geothermal power to customers. The Energy Regulatory Commission says this exercise will be managed by the Kenya Electricity Transmission Company, KETRACO, that will be tasked with ensuring cheaper power is dispatched fast to the grid in a move to lower the cost of power for consumers. If implemented, the new dispatch center will see Kenya join countries like Malaysia that monitor electricity demand and supply. KETRACO is already sourcing for consultants to form a dispatch center, which could see Kenya Power lose the liberty to determine the electricity mix. And new draft rules released by the National Transport Safety Authority (NTSA) are seeking to carry out inspection on all private vehicles every 2 years and every year for commercial vehicles. According to a local daily, the draft regulations require all commercial vehicles, public service vehicles and school buses to undergo a pre-registration inspection before registration and an annual periodic motor vehicle inspection. Now, this inspection is to cover motorcycles, three-wheelers and trailers. Motorcyclists will pay 1,300 shillings for the inspection, and three-wheeler operators will pay about 2,600 shillings, while private car owners will pay between 2,600 and 3,900 shillings for the checks depending on the vehicle engine capacity. Areas of interest for the inspection include shock absorbers, tires, headlights, battery life indicators, brakes and seat belts, among others. Currently, there are over 2 million vehicles in the country today. And joining us now to help guide us on what sort of inspection this is going to be, Engineer Gerald Wangai, who is the Director for Motor Vehicle Inspection at the NTSA. Thank you so much for joining us.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Well, is there going to be an inspection or is there not? And if we are expecting it, how soon is this going to be?
Okay. Now, if you go through the Traffic Act, CAB 403,
Yes.
Section 16.2 states clearly that all vehicles from the date of manufacture, 4 years from the date of manufacture, are supposed to be inspected by Motor Vehicle Inspection Unit, which lies within the National Transport and Safety Authority. So within that, we have now developed the regulation so
Yes.
that we can inspect all the vehicles as per the Traffic Act. Currently, what we have been doing, we have been inspecting public service vehicles and commercial vehicles,
Yeah.
but we have not been inspecting private vehicles. But the law states clearly that all vehicles from the date of manufacture, from the after 4 years, is supposed to be inspected. What we are now also doing is that we have seen as a motor vehicle inspection center, currently we have 17 inspection centers. And if we are expected to inspect more than 2 million vehicles, we don't have the capacity to do that.
Right.
And that is why we have not been inspecting from the time the law came into effect 2012. Otherwise, if we had the capacity, we could have been doing that. Now, we have developed a regulation so that, in essence, we can call upon the private players to come in and help us in inspection of vehicles. So this one, we are calling it outsourcing of motor vehicle inspection. The mandate is still with NTSA, but we outsource the services to private players.
Okay. But seeing as you're going to outsource the services to private players, what happens to the newly bought cars? Say if I went to a showroom and bought a car, does this still apply to those cars?
What there is the law currently says 4 years from the date of manufacture or from the date it was recorded. So if you have bought your vehicle today, it will take another 4 years before it can be inspected.
Okay.
Now, what we have now put in the regulation is that for those people who are importing secondary vehicles and they have already been inspected, we are saying we give them a grace of period of 2 years from the date they started operating in Kenya.
Yeah.
That is the time now we are going to start inspecting. That is the regulation we have already put to the public so that the public can discuss it and we can get the feedback before it can be gazetted, become a law.
All right. So you said that you do not have the capacity yet, and so you're thinking of outsourcing this service. Have you received any offers in regard to who are the interested parties willing to do this?
Currently, the regulation which we have put for public comment is the one which will mandate us to call for public or interested parties to come and do inspection on behalf of NTSA. We will actually license them to do it on behalf of us.
So how soon do we expect this to happen?
We expect that one to be by the end of this year.
By the end of 2016?
Yes.
All right, so the people who are concerned, I guess this is the motorists, the motorcyclists as well, have been saying that these rates are a bit on the higher side. Do you think that the rates that have been quoted are on the higher side?
No. If you look at the rate which we are talking about currently, is a booking fee of 1,000.
Yeah.
And it was gazetted in 1994. And the law says that before any inspection is carried out,
Yeah.
the owner of the vehicle is supposed to pay the prescribed fees. What we are charging is a booking fee. The rates which we have put there are the ones which were gazetted in 2011 to operate with the Minister of with the Mechanical and Transport Fund.
Yes.
They were gazetted 2011, and they have been in operation from 2011. Since we are in the same ministry, Ministry of Transport and Infrastructure,
Yeah.
we are saying the rates which have been used from 2011, we don't want to add more. We just adopt that. If you look at the rates which are being charged in Britain, it's 7,800 per vehicle. If you go to Singapore, it's also 7,000. If you look at South Africa, they're also charging 7,000. If you look at even the valuation companies like AE and whatever, they are charging around 5,000.
So it's around the same area. So
Yes,
what
and
we need to
we
do
are
is to
only
update
talking
it.
about 2,600. And
That's 2,600. That is the minimum. So it could go up as much as 3,900, which
900.
some of the private car owners say is really high.
But when we are talking about 3,900, we are talking about a vehicle which is more than 3,000 cc.
Yes.
Yes, it is not the normal vehicle. No.
So the engine capacity determines how much
Yes,
each car owner is going to pay.
Yes.
All right.
Right now, you can imagine a tuk-tuk paying a booking fee of 1,000, a trailer 1,000. It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense at all. All right, so thank you so much for coming to talk to us about the vehicle inspection, of course, and what exactly we should expect. The vehicle inspection could be coming up by the end of 2016, and NTSA at the moment doesn't have the capacity to, carry out this inspection, so they are going to be putting out tender notices for anyone who is interested to be able to do this. Let's look at other stories making headlines in business. A Brazilian judge ordered wireless phone carriers to block access to Facebook's WhatsApp for about 72 hours throughout Latin America's largest country. That was starting Monday afternoon, and this is the second such incident against the popular messaging application in just 5 months. The decision by the judge in northeastern state of Sergipe applies to the 5 main wireless operators in Brazil. The reason for the order is not known due to legal secrecy in an ongoing case in the Sergipe State Court. Residents in Rio de Janeiro said they were already feeling the effects of the ban.
It's going to be difficult. I was joking with my friends that people are going crazy, going out and killing in the streets because they do not have WhatsApp. It's going to be difficult if they don't change this.
Though others took a more pragmatic approach.
Não, com quem você realmente precisa se comunicar existe.
When you really need to communicate, there are other methods, Facebook and other things. We can still communicate.
Representatives at Facebook in Sao Paulo could not immediately be reached for comment, nor could executives at the 5 telco carriers.
Eu já estou sentindo falta, né? Porque eu tenho.
I am already feeling it because I keep contact with my school, university, former pupils, and no one knows what to do. Everyone is sending SMS messages telling us to use another app and create the same groups again.
Judge Marcel Maia Montalvao is the same judge who in March ordered the imprisonment of a Facebook executive based in Brazil for failing to comply with an attempted block on WhatsApp. He was jailed and subsequently freed. This is the second time since mid-December that the ambiguous text message and internet voice telephone service for smartphones has been target of a blocking order in Brazil. A judge in the state of Sao Paulo ordered that the service be shut down for 48 hours after Facebook failed to comply with an order, although another court shortly after interrupted that suspension. All right, now would like to focus our attention on banking systems and information technology and how the two of them correlate in this day and age. And, joining us to have this conversation is John Bosunkwi, who is the Regional Director for Eastern Africa at Net Guardians. They deal a lot in information systems as well. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Well, tell us a bit about Net Guardians, what exactly you do and how long you've been in the Kenyan industry.
Okay, Net Guardians, we specialize in banking. We're actually a fintech company. We specialize on softwares that help banks mitigate fraud.
Yeah.
Yes, and also for regulations also. Yeah.
Okay. So, with what's happening in the banking industry today, there've been a lot of complaints about how information technology systems are manipulated.
Yes.
And just about how banking institutions are, breaking some of the financial obligation regulatory framework and, using IT systems as well to manipulate and give wrong information at the end of the day when it comes to financial reporting. But how do the systems that you have help to even make sure that we are not manipulating any financial reporting at all?
As Net Guardians, we focus on two particular areas. One is on regulations.
Yeah.
So we work very closely with regulators like Central Bank of Kenya to help to put measures in place which actually help on the compliance. That is one. Secondly, in terms of financial reporting, we really don't focus on the financial reportings. What we do is that we help banks monitor internally. There are controls that we put in place for banks to monitor all the activities and the
What
events.
kind of controls are these?
There are quite a number. We've been working in the industry for some time now, and we already have some predefined controls. One of them, for example, will be something to do with the IT accomplice, collusion internally, whereby the IT people can collude with the staff to perpetrate a fraud. So we normally we help the bank monitor such kind of anomalies in the bank. Second, you can find maybe internally, fraud is an end game.
Yes.
Yeah. Internally, before a fraud is committed, you will find maybe those who are intending to do that are actually monitoring specific accounts of the customers. They're stealing information of the customers and passing it to the people they're colluding with in order to perpetrate the fraud. So we normally now, those are now the kind of things that we actually monitor and communicate to we send real alerts, real time, and so that the banks can take action before a fraud is committed.
All right, so these alerts are sent to the banking institutions.
Yes.
There's nowhere a customer has access to these alerts as well.
This information is actually for the banks. When we put our system to the banks, we work very closely with the risk managers and the internal auditors and even the forensic team within the bank. So this information, these alerts or these dashboards, these reports, we just give to those people to take action internally, to monitor what is happening, especially on the financial transactions, on the IT layers, and also on the banking channels. We also monitor all those channels.
All right. So the challenge that that I guess has come out the past few weeks with what's happening in the banking industry is that there's sometimes a lot of insider lending that goes unreported.
Exactly.
So if money is drawn from whatever accounts inside a bank and the IT systems are not able to record that, then there's a problem. But how exactly do we fix that problem?
It's actually, and that's actually where we are as Net Guardians. That's where we actually play. You realize already banks have systems, the IT systems, security. You talk of things like firewalls. But now, one unique thing that we bring into the banks is that as we monitor the activity, we correlate all the activities happening within the banks with the human behavior. That is how we're able to tell that this is the person who is the culprit on this. And when it comes now to like inside lending, our system will help the banks to actually see all the transactions that have been done without concealing any information. So long as the system is in place, we hook it to the core banking system, we hook it to all IT applications, and we monitor everything. Even if people decide to hide some information, as we will reveal it. That is actually how we come in, because we monitor all the activities and correlate with the human behavior.
All right.
And you see now, like insider lending, actually, it comes in terms of collusions. You see, maybe senior managers, the senior directors, like senior executives, they are doing it internally just to conceal some information because they know they have the power. Otherwise, if our system is in place, we actually flag everything that happens.
Wow.
Yes.
So going forward, I know that banking institutions as well have identified this as a gap for them, and now other banking institutions that would like to win the trust of their customers are trying as much as possible to make sure things like insider lending do not even show up at any one point. Because what we understand is that with an example of Chase Bank, it was one institution or one branch that led to all the troubles that the entire bank was able to experience. But going forward, how do we ensure that we are keeping up with the trends, keeping up with the upgraded systems that are being put in place in information technology banking systems?
I'll say it's actually in two ways. One, we start with the Central Bank of Kenya as the regulator.
Yeah.
you realize that Central Bank of Kenya already has a supervisory department, which is supposed actually to see what is happening in the banking sector. Now, we have a solution. It's called Risk Guardians.
Yeah.
Risk Guardians is actually regulatory control. We focus on the regulatory framework. So we can help actual central bank to be able to monitor what is happening in all other banks in terms of compliance, in terms of regulations. And then another one now, what we do is that in each particular bank, we can deploy now a solution called Fraud Guardian.
Yeah.
Our Fraud Guardian is actually now the solution that we give the banks with the number of controls to monitor human behavior, to monitor things like collusions internally within employees. We help now the banks to monitor what is happening and to stop the fraud internally. Yeah.
Okay.
So I would say it's central bank. Actually, we in Nigeria, for example,
Yeah.
maybe this is something Central Bank of Kenya can borrow. We were having discussions with them, and we were not asking them to endorse our system. We were only showing them what is happening and how they can mitigate frauds. So we with the kind of knowledge we passed to them, they decided to ask all the banks to actually come up with what they call fraud management desks.
Yeah.
And when they have the fraud management desks, they were also asked by the Central Bank of Nigeria to actually after establishing the fraud management desk where they can disseminate information about the customers in terms of fraud and stuff, they also asked them to acquire enterprise fraud management solutions, like what now we are giving as Net Guardians. So if this can actually be used here in Kenya, I think it really help a lot to avoid such problems. And
All
challenges.
right.
Yeah.
So enterprise fraud management systems, that is what Kenya needs to get rid of all these problems we're
Absolutely.
experiencing.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much, John. It was an honor speaking to you today on the show.
Thank you very much.
John Bosunkwi is the Regional Director for Eastern Africa at Net Guardians, talking to us about banking institutions as well as having IT systems that can be able to eliminate fraud. Let's now take you to Nigeria, where Nigerian entrepreneurs have created a local sportswear label to rival international brands. O Sportswear is an indigenous Nigerian brand that creates sports apparel for local teams. The company is fast becoming the preferred sportswear brand amongst professional football clubs, providing a cheaper, more affordable alternative to international brands like Nike and Adidas. In 2008, O Sportswear set up shop in Nigeria's sprawling commercial capital, Lagos. And Tunji Brown, who started the company, says what he wanted was to create a local alternative to the more expensive international brands like Nike and Adidas. O now employs 30 people, but things were tough going when the company first started, as local teams were reluctant to try on the new jerseys. But in 2010, the brand was able to produce sportswear for the Oyo State-based Shooting Stars of Nigeria, the first professional football team to sign a deal with them. And 20 sports teams are now kitted by O. The company is the fastest growing sportswear brand in Nigeria. They also create team jerseys which fans wear during matches, and the company is currently worth about $200,000 US.
I grew up supporting the Nigerian League, and the desire to always be involved in sports, since I don't do sports personally, was there. So we looked at the possibility of what is actually going on in the Nigerian League with regards to kitting, and we decided to go into production of sportswear and following the footsteps of the well-known brands like Nike and Adidas.
I never thought that a Nigerian can produce a jersey that I'll be proud of, that we can put on, that the governor of Lagos State will put on, that the General Overseer of Mountain of Fire Miracles Ministries worldwide, his Assistant General Overseers, our pastors, big people in the church will put on, and the first comment will be, wow, was this made in Nigeria? I mean, hey, I wear it proudly wherever I go.
Well, let's wind up by taking a look at the money markets, get you an update on how the NSE did open today after such a long weekend. Let's begin by taking a look at the money market. And if you're going out buying dollars today, against the Kenya shilling, the dollar is buying at 101 shillings and 1 cent and selling at 101 shillings and 20 cents. That is this is the much Kenya shillings you will need to buy the dollar. And if you're buying the pounds, you will buy the pound at 147 shillings and 66 cents, and it will be selling at 147 shillings and 98 cents, while the euro is buying at 115 shillings and 53 cents and selling at 115 shillings and 78 cents. Let's take a look at the NSE performance. Now, this is as at last week. We looked at a turnover of 269 million, and the share traded, we looked at 58 million, while the NSE 20 share index stood at 4,009.26 points, and the bonds traded, we looked at 643 million. That is as at last week. And let's look at the most active stocks today. Equity Bank, as at about 2:30 p.m., we looked at a volume of 3.85 million worth of shares moved, and Safaricom, second on the counter, had moved 1.73 million worth of shares. The KCB had moved 1.55 million, and Carb Acid had moved about 1 million worth shares. And the winning stocks, we looked at ARM Cement with a share going at 37 shillings and 50 cents, had gone up 7.14%. Scan Group had moved up 6.25%, and CNG as well had moved up 5.88%. And we're looking at another company there that have moved, LKL had moved 5.49% with the share going at 4 shillings and 80 cents. And well, Fahari iRate had gone up, gone down 9.89%, and Crown Baja right here had gone down 5%, while Carb Acid again on the losing side gone down 3.33%. And that's just a look at the markets this afternoon. But the markets are just about to close, so this could have all changed, and we could see different listed companies on the losing side and the winning side, as well as amongst the most active stocks. And that marks the end of business today this afternoon. But earlier we had asked you what ministries you think deserve more budgetary allocation, and we had one here that was coming in from a gentleman called, let me see, well, it was coming in from Stephen, who was saying, I think the Ministry of Interior and Coordination of National Government deserve better budgetary allocation. And well, there we go. Those are some of the tweets that were coming through in regard to our question. But coming up next is News Hour with Sharon Momanyi. Don't go too far. We'll be giving you updates on what's happening in and around the country as well as beyond.
Look at the news making headlines. A quick look at the news making headlines this hour.